The original recipients of Paul's letters did not know that a later Vatican institution would make Peter their pope.
They knew Paul had been appointed as the apostle to the Gentiles, while Peter had been entrusted with the circumcised, the Jewish people. Galatians chapter 2, verses 7 through 9, says that Paul was entrusted with the gospel to the uncircumcised, just as Peter was entrusted with the gospel to the circumcised.
They knew the recognized pillars were in Jerusalem, not Rome. Acts chapter 15 shows Jerusalem resolving the dispute over the Gentiles.
Peter spoke, but James gave the judgment and directed the letter to the congregations. They also knew that Paul publicly rebuked Peter. Paul says in Galatians chapter 2, verse 11, "I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned." Peter withdrew from Gentile believers out of fear. Paul said Peter was not walking in step with the truth of the gospel. So, they knew Peter was never their pope. Jesus promised Peter the keys to the kingdom of heaven. These were not literal keys, and they were not a transferable papal office. They were God's instruction concerning the way of salvation. Yet when Jesus explained that the Messiah must suffer, die, and rise, Peter opposed the very message that opens the way to the kingdom. Jesus then told him, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me." Jesus also warned Peter, "Simon, Simon, Satan has demanded to sift you like wheat." After Peter denied Jesus 3 times, Jesus asked him 3 times, "Do you love me?" Then Jesus told Peter, "Feed my sheep." Those sheep were not a Roman church. They were the Jerusalem Jewish Christian church, the sheep within the house of Israel. Why would Jesus care so much for his Jewish disciples? He said, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." The original readers did not know that Peter later contradicted his master again, abandoned the Jerusalem post entrusted to the Jewish Christian church, and established another administrative center in Rome. That would make him another, "Get behind me, Satan," Peter.
The New Testament never calls Peter the Bishop of Rome. It never says Peter transferred his keys or jurisdiction to Linus.
It never commands Jerusalem or the Gentile congregations to submit to a Roman successor. That is a later Vatican story, not apostolic history. So you have only 2 options. Either Peter was never a pope, or Satan was your first pope. I choose both conclusions. Peter was never a pope, and if Rome nevertheless calls him its first pope, then it makes the "Get behind me, Satan" Peter its first pope. Neither Peter nor the early bishops of Rome later claimed as his successors were popes. The papal system emerged through a later imperial Catholic development. Constantine established the model of emperor-directed Nicene religion, not the Jewish Christian church Jesus founded.